We have a guest in studio, Heath Phillips, who is running for Congress. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you guys doing today?
Very good. Sorry, we're not full staff for your for your introduction to the show this morning.
Well, that is fine as long as I'm here, and that's, I think, what matters, and have people get a chance to hear who I am.
Yeah, not too familiar with you at this point. When did you announce, and let's get into talking about who Heath Phillips is.
I announced, actually, it would be 3 weeks after Anthony announced. I have been pondering this decision for several years. I do a lot of legislation work behind the scenes in Washington, D.C., so that's kind of what spurred me into the idea of wanting to run for Congress. A little bit about me is I actually did grow up here in Utica.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I am a Utica native. My family, you actually just announced a birthday wish to one of my family members.
Oh, look at that.
The Barberos is from my stepfamily, so
Oh, okay.
I have family here. This is technically my hometown also.
You live now,
I live now in a town called Cincinnatus. My father lived here. My mother lives in Cortland County. And my mother being 74 years old, I'm the only son. My choice in life was to buy a house by my mother to be able to be there in her times of need, that she needs something. That's one of the main reasons why I actually do live in Cortland now.
Okay.
Like I said, I have a lot of family here. My family spans all the way from Utica to Buffalo, so I have a very large extended family.
And I was told you have a military background. Is that right?
Yes, I am a United States Navy veteran. I just was honored, privileged to be called a veteran. I am what they call a military sexual assault survivor in the military. I joined at 17. Technically, I joined at 16, and a few days after my 17th birthday, I was in boot camp. I come from a very large military family, so I wanted to follow in my family's footsteps. Unfortunately, due to the consequences that happened, I dealt with, over a 10-month period, 6 fellow shipmates choosing to rape me, beat me, use me as...
Oh, my goodness.
Something that I should not have been used for. I was, at 17, I only weighed 130 pounds. As you can see, I really exceed that now. But
we all do.
I was given a choice due to my AWOLs. The command was trying to do nothing about it. I went AWOL, and when I went AWOL, I met Sherry Bullard. And at 16, I did an intern for him, so my father knows him very well. In fact, I saw him yesterday. I had to make sure while I was in town, I stopped in and said hello. He did a congressional investigation, which actually did find what was happening. But back in the 80s, this is 1988 and 89, the military would prefer to hush it up and sweep it under the rugs. So they sent an 18-year-old boy broken home with no help with an other than honorable discharge. I chose the other than honorable discharge because they wanted to give me 6 months confinement to the ship, where my attackers still were, living in the same area as my attackers. And, I was already a basket case. I had already tried committing suicide. I was already, at that time, at 18 years old, I was heavily drinking, trying to
deal with what was
deal
going
with
on.
it.
Yeah.
So I came home, and I straight up, I've been in national media over my past. I did 20 years of being an alcoholic. I did a lot of drugs. I got in trouble. My relationships were really horrible because I did not know how to deal with anything. And when the VA would not help me due to my discharge, I had no avenue but to self-medicate. In 2009, after another failed suicide attempt, I was at rock bottom, driving home. I know people have done this. I was driving home. I was drunk. I was driving with one eye because that's all I could see with. No seatbelt on, and I was trying to find a tree to hit. And somehow I blacked out. I thank God for that. And when I woke up the next day, reality sunk in, and I quit drinking. I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit using drugs from that day, and I've never used since. And that's when I wanted to find out what was wrong with me. Why did I have all these emotions? Why were all these things wrong? And the more and more I started studying on this, more and more I found out I was not alone. All these years I thought, why me? I was alone. Find out there's thousands upon thousands of people from just the military that this happened to. And the more I started recovering, the more I wanted to start helping other people. And I reached out to local legislators and then assembly members. And at state level, nobody wanted to touch this. And at that time, nobody wanted to touch this.
This is 2009, 2010.
This is 2000, the end of 2009, beginning of 2010 era.
Okay.
And I helped a bunch of survivors, myself, and a newly forming organization called Protect Our Defenders was formed due to all of us sharing our stories. Mm-hmm. And this organization is actually one of the leading national organizations in the United States for sexual assault for military personnel, and they provide pro bono services. They do a lot of legislation things. That is what got me into federal level legislation. I met with a Congresswoman, Jackie Spear from California, and helped her do what they called the STOP Act bill, which was basically trying to prevent this from happening in the military. The bill didn't succeed through, but I was still determined. And I stayed at doing legislation work, and that's how I ended up meeting Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and started being able to mentor under her thoughts on how to do things, which was very phenomenal. And I went from there to just doing the small little things to, I want to say it was like the end of 2013. I had taken on the VA in 2009. I should add that part in there. For service-connected, because I have post-traumatic stress disorder.
You say you had taken on?
I took them on. I challenged them to become service-connected for post-traumatic stress disorder. Basically, it was so I could get into the VA and start getting treatment.
Okay.
And everybody I went to, nobody, you won't win. I want to be on 5 years. I am the only person in the United States that has an other than honorable discharge that is service-connected. And I did my own case. 5 years is because if you know anything about the VA, mm-hmm. It takes years to get hearings and get in. And due to me getting into that, it's where I really wanted to excel. And that's where my biggest thought was I did not want this to happen to anybody else.
Sure.
I know what I went through. And I seen the suffrage that people had to deal because of me. And I wanted to make amends, but I also wanted to stop this from other people.
Sure.
So my legislation that I started really getting into originally was for sexual assault. And then it expanded to women's rights because sexual assault women really tie together. That is the most prominent thing that you actually hear about. And in the military, originally, even if you were raped and you were pregnant, you had to carry. So to me, I thought that was very demeaning to a woman. And I'm adopted. So I grew up not believing in abortion until I became sober and seeing things in life. And to me, no government personnel should have any right to tell anybody what they should or should not do with their body. I mean, I'm sorry. Let's just backtrack for a second.
I was not aware of that. If you became pregnant in the military, you could not have an abortion?
Yes. If you did have an abortion, you were getting discharged. They have changed the laws since then.
Okay.
But this is how they originally started doing things.
By the way, we're talking with Heath Phillips. Heath said he's from the city of Utica originally and now lives in Cortland County. He is running for Congress, will be in a primary against Anthony Brindisi. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. So to make it really, I expanded what I did. And in 2015, when I won my case, they actually awarded me 100% service-connected. I'm still eligible to work. I can still do everything. It's just now I have all the full benefits of a veteran. And I was listed as a veteran at that time, which was very, for me, it was probably one of the best wins anybody could actually get in life. And
I see, because you're fighting your case and they're saying no, and then
everybody said it.
So you said you were recently recognized, I'm going to say recognized, that's not the word you used, designated as a veteran, a Navy veteran?
Yes.
Because you were dishonorably discharged?
I was other than honorable. Other than honorable is a classification just under general.
Okay.
And technically, you can still have your benefits, your rights, but it has to be approved. And all these years, I had never been approved. And when I became sober, that's when I was like, oh, wait a minute, I need help. Mm-hmm. Where am I going to get it? This happened to me in the military, so I think the military or the entity, which would be the VA, should be able to help me. And that's kind of what pressed my determination. And to be honest with you, if I was still a drunk, I would have never followed through. I would still be whatever hole I was in. And
so let's fast forward to today. You've been sober since 2009.
Yes.
No. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, by the way.
I don't look at it that way. But yeah.
Let's talk about what you do today. You were talking about legislation. Do you help write legislation? Do you advocate? What do you do today?
I technically call myself a veterans advocate and human rights advocate. I go to D.C. I am the only non-attorney in a thing called the Lawyers Coalition. And the Lawyers Coalition is pro bono attorneys all across the United States that help human rights victims, sexual assault, veterans, things of that nature. And what I do is I study legislation and I try to find ways to reword it, to fix it, to make it so it's actually helping somebody. Mm-hmm. I helped with a standalone bill called the Fairness for Veterans Act of 2016, which President Obama signed into law in November, which helps folks. Actually, it wasn't designed for me, but it is something that will help me. It was designed for Vietnam veteran era, for the folks that got discharged for some weird reason, smoking dope or whatever it was that they did that they got discharged for, and they didn't have an honorable discharge, but they have post-traumatic stress disorder. Because if you know anything about the Vietnam era, post-traumatic stress disorder was not a thing then.
Sure.
It did not really...
Didn't they call it shell shock?
They had other names for it.
The name has actually changed over the years.
Yeah, actually, Carlin, George Carlin, not to make a joke of it, George Carlin had a nice bit on that. He was talking about went from shell shock one thing to the other. So.
Yeah.
But they had a different form for it, but they didn't look at that when they discharged people. So all these years, these Vietnam veterans, not only were they shunned when they came home, now they're being shunned by the VA because they have post-traumatic stress disorder.
But it's untreated.
And it's being untreated.
Yeah, I got you.
So with this bill, what this does, it allows them now to be able to get treated, which really opens up the door for a lot of people that have these issues and couldn't get treatment before.
So I appreciate you sharing your personal story with us, and obviously, again, congratulations for, 6, 7, we're going on 8 years sobriety here, and you're doing some great work in Congress. Let's fast forward to today. What makes you want to run for Congress, and what is it that you hope to achieve?
To be honest with you, I wanted to run for Congress when Richard Hanna said he was going to leave the seat open. I am a Cortland County's Democratic former town chairman, and I was going to run. I discussed it with everybody, and at that time, Assemblyman Brindisi also had mentioned he was going to run. So, listening to the party, I did nothing. I sat back and waited, and he, in January, decided he wasn't going to run. He, per his press statement, said he would be best used locally, which he does a great job. And so, not being well known locally, I'm known nationally, but I'm not known locally, I decided, it's really not time. And I helped recruit Kim Myers. She, as you guys know, she was self-funded. Dad owns Dick's Sporting Goods, and I let things go. And it was probably 2 days after Claudia won, which, they all did a great job. Martin did a great job, but Claudia, in reality, she's won. She's our congresswoman. Mm-hmm. And I decided I wanted to take the challenge up. Win, lose, or draw, I still win, because for me, I'm showing people that you don't have to have a millionaire family. Your family doesn't have to be loaded. our country was founded on the principle of it didn't matter who you were. If you wanted to run for office, you could run for office. We have lost sight of that over the years. It's all about money, money, money. And to be honest with you, it shouldn't be. A Democrats, we're always talking about campaign reform, but yet you always hear them, you got to have millions of dollars.
Well, that's a great. You're right.
Yes.
You're right. That's the reality of it today.
Yes.
So,
in that, whether it's campaign ads,
right.
The signs that go around, the travel that you need to do in a district that's so big leading up to it, you need to be backed. At this point, do you have the backing of any of the county Democratic committees? Where are we in that process? Who's supporting Heath Phillips?
I'll be honest. The people that have been supporting me actually are former Democrat legislators, the old guard, as I call them. They're the ones because they were actually around when Mike Arcuri was around. They were around when a Democrat was in office, so they know how to help people run for office at the congressional level. If you realize Kim Myers is the only person that has ran for Congress on a Democratic line since Mike Arcuri left. So there's not a lot of experience in these new committees. You know, you can read anything you want. The experience of actually really doing it is what counts. And that's what I have acquired. The first mayor of Cortland, the city of Cortland, she also worked for Mike Arcuri. She is one of my folks that have helped me. She's actually endorsed me. I've had several legislators from Cortland County endorse me because they're, as I call them, the old guard. As far as committees, they know who I am. I reached out to all of them. I started reaching out to all of them in November. And to be honest with you, they already have their pick.
Sure.
And, you know, the way I look at it, this is how I look at it. If you look at any other district in New York State, there's more than one candidate running in a primary. This is the only county that they are trying to not have a primary in. And
Oneida County or the 22nd?
The 22nd district.
Yeah. Okay.
They're trying to not have a primary, which anybody that knows anything about running for office, if you want to flip a district, you have to have excitement in a primary, especially in an off presidential year.
Sure.
Right.
Otherwise, there's going to be no excitement. It's going to be Anthony and it's going to be Claudia tit-tatting with each other, at least with me in. And like I said, win, lose, or draw, I still win because I've done something that people only talk about.
Right.
I've actually had the courage to step up and try doing it. Whether I have $1 in my account, 50 cents, I'm trying to, you know, for one, it helps bring the excitement up. It's boring.
Let me ask
so
you this.
we're running low on time. I do want to get to the downtown hospital
yes.
issue. You know, you had mentioned earlier that one of the reasons you decided to run when Richard Hanna decided, or one of the reasons you decided not to run was you thought that Anthony was going to run, and I'm assuming you would have thought he was an adequate candidate. Why now run against him, and is it because of your difference in opinion on the no downtown hospital?
The no downtown hospital, to me, that's a legislation issue. I was, by reading it, and I have a letter from Senator Grippo. It states in that letter that the legislation was written so only Oneida County could get this money, the $300 million. I live in Cortland County. So you're saying Cortland County was not entitled to any money because you only wanted to write it for Oneida County. Mm-hmm. And if you look at it, it also gives Mohawk Valley the sole key to this. So where is it? I've not heard where the people who do, that's who elects you. So if I'm walking around the streets and, you know, I've been in Utica a lot. I come here at least once a week and I walk the streets and I talk to people because that's what a good candidate does.
Right.
Sure.
You don't do party line meetings. You meet the people. And as I told you yesterday, there was only, I could count on one hand people that were actually excited for it. And one just happened to be a realtor. And another one, which I didn't realize, owned a lot of the property there. So I was confused.
Can I just ask?
Yes.
Are you going door to door downtown? Are you hitting specific neighborhoods in the city of Utica?
I'm just walking through in Utica. I have,
Okay.
I have been.
But I mean, like downtown Genesee Street, or are you going to actual neighborhoods?
I'm going all over. I've done apartment buildings. I knocked door to door. I've been in Little Falls. You know, I'm going all over because that's what a candidate's supposed to do.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
You know, I honestly, I'm not narcissistic. I don't like being in the media every day because that's just not me. You know, I don't care about that. My thought and my process is I want to actually meet the people so they know me personally, not know me by what they see on TV, because you can be anything on TV.
Right.
I just want to go back to the hospital. We got about 1 minute left. Is your objection to the hospital that you feel like it was tailored to Oneida County and the city of Utica, and your home county wasn't eligible for this type of funding?
Actually, no. If you actually read it, I don't like strong arm tactics, and that's when you're forcing to put something someplace and I can't find anything to deal with the environment. That's 32 acres. Where is all that going? You know, I deal a lot with environment.
Do you mean the businesses or
the buildings themselves?
Okay.
You have to tear these buildings down. They're full of asbestos. They're full of lead piping. You have sewer that connects them all underneath, and if you're tearing all this up, that sewer just doesn't connect just for downtown. It connects all of the district, or actually all of the, you know, the downtown and the adjacent areas.
I understand, yeah.
There's so much things that I don't see anywhere where there's a plan for it, how they're going to pay for it.
You're saying the infrastructure.
Yes.
Okay.
And
I will say that's one of the lingering questions that the No Hospital Downtown folks asked was who pays for infrastructure, and there were some other questions about if there was remediation needed for asbestos or soil contamination, et cetera.
And really quickly, I just want to address with you, the mayor had come out and said that you had never approached him or anybody in his office to ask about the project, and so he was kind of critical of you. Can you respond to that, or have you reached out to other
I have
public
talked to
officials?
other public officials in town. My philosophy on this is going to be a state hospital. This is not a city hospital. This is a state hospital being done by state funds, because that's the $300 million is coming from the state, and it was state legislation. It's not city legislation. That was what I was looking into. I wasn't looking into anything pertaining to the mayor or the city officials. I was looking, why is it being forced downtown? Why is there no studies being done? This is a state issue.
I believe studies will be done, Heath. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We would love to have you back. I just want to say, though, the funding for a hospital that size, the city could never pay for.
Correct.
That's why they needed assistance from the state. We will chat again. I appreciate you coming in.